Hi, everyone. Welcome to our brand new review series of Star Trek Picard. I'm joined here by Alan and Namir.
I know.
And we've been doing reviews of The Next Generation. And now that the Next Generation sequel is out on Paramount Plus or whatever you guys are watching it on in Canada.
ATV.
ATV, though you said?
The internet.
So season 2, episode 1.
Well, hello, my friend.
What is this? What have you done?
Welcome to the road not taken.
Let's start with Alan. What did you think?
I actually enjoyed the premiere quite a bit. I was cautiously optimistic after seeing the trailers initially. I was excited for all the fan service that I knew was coming. Q, Guinan, the Borg. I know some people will think that's kind of lame, but I eat that stuff up. So
I don't know. I feel like you guys can probably guess what I'm gonna say. I did not like it. At all. I didn't like it. I couldn't get into it. It wasn't well written. I didn't understand the motivations of the characters. I didn't understand who these characters were. I just kind of forgot. And they just, we can talk about it a little bit later, but just generally, I thought it was a kind of a disappointment. I was really looking forward to it for whatever reason. And I didn't like it. It fell super flat for me.
I like the episode. I feel that I have to make an effort with these new Star Trek series to not watch them the way, because my tendency is to be like, well, if I was doing the show, I would do it like this. And then I have some sort of preconceived idea in my head of what I would do, or at least a vague idea of what I would do. And of course, it never measures up to that. So putting that aside and just, at face value, there are some things that I didn't like about it that we'll get into, but I feel like some of those criticisms you could really apply to any Star Trek. I think the only element that I don't like, which is, I don't know if it's inevitable, but one of the elements I don't like is there's a kind of a dumbed down element to it that doesn't really need to be there. But overall, I really thought it was a vast improvement over season 1 so far, and I was enjoying what they were doing and seeing kind of more of the Federation and Starfleet and kind of getting a bit more into like a sequel of the Next Generation.
I don't know where to start. I mean, I feel like everything that I'm going to say is just going to be
I
disagreeing with everything that you guys just said. I don't even know how to start.
Well, I feel like I should redo mine now.
All right, can I redo mine too?
Do you think
My
that I have time to
phone rang and I was
edit?
distracted.
I don't have time to edit this. We're just gonna take this.
If it's going where I'm hoping it's going, I could see it being a good bookend to like Next Generation, where if we see Picard make peace with the Borg and his personal demons with his assimilation in the Next Generation, if he finds love, like he was, like they're addressing that, where he lives a very lonely, solitary life, and I'm pulling for him and the Romulan lady who works at his vineyard. she seems very sweet, and it seems like they have a nice relationship. And I would like to see a happy ending for a good captain, or admiral now, I guess he is, but where he makes peace with his personal demons and he finds love. I think that's hopefully where they're going towards, and wrap it up in a nice little bow, maybe. But I was happy. So I know Namir's probably shaking his head at me, rolling his eyes.
You can see me. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing any of that. I'm doing that all in my brain. It's all mental.
I know. was there.
Okay, so I guess I understand that people will probably like Picard. I don't like it because I think it's badly written, and the characters are like really, really cardboard. The only reason that Picard gets away with not having any real character development is because he has this huge history of like, movies and the TV show and all that stuff that you don't need to really develop him. But everybody else, like, I don't know where they're coming from. Rios is a captain now for some reason. He's allowed to smoke cigars on the bridge. I have no idea what's going on. And then 7 of 9 has his ship. There's just a lot. And I think there's good ideas in there, but they packed everything into the first episode so that there was no time to like let the story kind of unfold naturally, like, good stories do, and develop that thing that they call drama, and tension, and all of that stuff that makes good television. And they did this thing that I hate this when TV shows do this. It's when they show the ending at the start of the show. That drives me crazy.
Computer, activate auto-destruct sequence.
Auto-destruct activated. 9, 8,
Picard.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Because it's like you've got this balloon that's this episode, and it totally empties it out, right? Like as soon as I saw, because I didn't really know a lot about this season, I didn't know what was going to happen, so I didn't actually know the Borg were going to be in it. So that beginning, that opening, just ruined it for me, right? It would have been nice to be able to kind of be surprised at the end of it, to have a nice build up towards that, because that's a huge reveal, right? But they just got rid of all of that. They got rid of all of that like inherent tension that they could have built in the episode by doing this like cheap kind of trick. And I think that people, like, showrunners do that because they want to grab the audience right away with this like fake kind of action scene. But if you have to trick the audience into being interested in your episode, you probably shouldn't write it in the first place. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with your TV show if you have to trick audiences into watching it.
Okay, we're gonna leave some for later, Namir. You gotta leave some for later.
Ouch.
But that's
Make it say in 15 minutes.
that's it. I'm done. That's all I have to say. It just makes me so upset.
I love that there's a Picard series that's in the second season. Like it's so amazing that the Picard is actually back. He's by far my favorite captain, and the show is like a sequel to TNG, which was like my favorite show. So in that sense, what's not to like? Q is back, Guinan is back, and I hope other TNG characters return. I feel like Namir has things to say.
I have something to say. It's not a sequel to TNG. It's their universe, that Picard universe is in the new timeline.
What new timeline?
It's in the J.J. Abrams timeline.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true, Alan?
No.
Yeah, fact check.
I think we should fact check that. I'm pretty sure it's true.
I think aesthetically it's in J.J. Abrams' world, but I don't think it's in the alternate universe.
Yeah, that's the thing
because
is that they said that all these are Prime Universe canon. So all these shows, even Lower Decks and Prodigy, are all Prime Universe canon. Only the 3 Kelvin movies are in the Kelvin universe.
Wasn't the first season about him? The first episode was essentially him like dealing with the Romulan exodus.
Yeah, but that happened in the Prime universe.
That happened. Yeah.
Oh, that didn't happen in the Kelvin universe. You're right.
It's what caused the Kelvin universe, but it's not. It didn't happen in the Kelvin universe.
Yeah.
Right. It happened in the Prime universe. Oh,
Amir, you weren't paying attention.
I wasn't, because I was bored out of my mind.
Totally.
I was playing Wordle at the same time.
Just looking at the first season, there were things about that I loved and things about first season that I hated. So just in terms of what my main issue with Picard is, like overall, before I get into the specifics of this episode, is the style and tone. When J.J. Abrams revitalized the franchise, he brought his new upbeat and kinetic style. That's like, it's what they've done pretty much ever since with every series. And I think that style works really well for Discovery, but I don't think it works for Picard. I don't think the action, shaky camera, and swearing is like Picard. Pretty much since Star Trek Nemesis, Patrick Stewart's played Patrick Stewart, and he stopped playing Picard. If you look at how Picard behaves in this episode, like a perfect example is hugging. I've never seen Jean-Luc Picard hug anybody. You know, even Guinan, he doesn't come into the temple and say, oh, Guy didn't, you know, like that's never happened. It's not part of his character. He's very stiff, you know, and Jean-Luc Picard is not a dog person, but Patrick Stewart is a dog person. So it's like these little things that creep in, you know, and in Star Trek Nemesis, you had, you know, Picard bombing around in a dune buggy and laying waste to a pre-warp civilization, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it makes no sense, and it's completely inconsistent with his character. And it's only being done for effect to have this action sequence. So I think that's where I'm kind of on the same page with Namir, where there's a lot of stuff in the show that doesn't make sense with Picard's character, but is just put in there to do like something dramatic or something action oriented, but it's not consistent with his character, I find.
Yeah, which is bad because the show is called Picard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, it should be called Patrick Stewart.
Star Trek, Patrick Stewart.
Well,
But
again,
I totally agree.
I
Because
don't want to be the. I'll be the devil's advocate here, but I mean, there's 22 years. I mean, people do change. I can attest to that myself when I look back at who I was.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's true that people change, but I feel like that's in our head fan justification for really shortcuts to good writing.
Yeah,
Because I don't think that the writers are going, well, yes, he's changed, and we're deliberately deciding that he's changed in these ways. I don't think, and I think that if they had made that decision, it would feel organic or apparent. But I don't think that's happening. I think they're just going, well, whatever. We're just. I want to do this.
yeah, they're just like, whatever, space battles, Romulans, Borg, blah, pff, you know, that's basically what the show is. But I totally, like, the thing is, when you watch television and movies to a certain degree, you watch it because you want to see characters change. You know, you want to see them learn things, right? Like, to have all that stuff done, you know, off camera in the 20 years in between in Nemesis and Picard makes no sense, right? Like, I'm interested in seeing Picard actually change as a character, right? I don't want to see him already at the end of that where he's this lovable grandpa that loves wine, you know, women and dogs and hugging, right? I want to see him become that person. I don't want to see him already there.
From a storytelling point of view, Picard's great love has always been Beverly Crusher. And so my question is, why is it not Beverly Crusher that comes to him and says, hey, time to, like, you know.
Because he already knows it doesn't work out from all good things.
This is why, because Star Trek is sexist. And Star Trek has always been sexist. And so, in other words, an old woman is a woman who's 60. So
Yeah.
this actress, I don't know her name, the Irish actress who plays the Romulan, what's her name? Laris?
Yeah, Laris.
Laris. She's 60. So she's old. And then, but he's like 23 years older than her. But then she's like the counterpart, because women that are 60-year-old, but men that are 80, they're still good to go, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's really why Gates McFadden isn't in it. And it's really too bad, because that would be, if Dr. Crusher showed up and said, okay, buddy, it's time to, like, I want to, like, spend the rest of my years with the person I love. What do you say? And he's like, I don't know. you know. But this,
It's
this
like,
I don't know. I thought
But-
Data was the love of his life last season.
I know. Oh my
I feel like he
god.
was really into Data.
I
Um,
totally agree. Like if you know, if she had, I think that would have been a nice way to start the show, right? Is to have him either in a place where he's at his lowest, right? Like where he's like lonely and he's missing something, or you know, he's not the same person he was, and the show is about him becoming that again, or he's the happiest he's ever been, right? Like he's with Crusher or whatever, he's living this perfect life and it gets shattered, right? Like one of those two things would have been great, but they did something that was neither, and they had this weird thing in the middle, right? And so it doesn't really work. And his like, he's got no chemistry with anybody else on the show, right? Not even his love interest. Like you're watching and you're like, I don't buy this for a second. You know, there's no way that those two are into each other. Patrick Stewart just wants to have a nap and read a book. That's, you know, like that's,
I thought they were cute, but anyway, that's just me.
yeah.
no, I
'Cause
think
you're an optimist.
I guess. I don't know if I've been accused of that very often in my life, but maybe.
I I think when it comes to you know, you're a Star Trek optimist. You just you take the bright
is
side
true.
of every Star Trek show.
It's true. I watch it unmercifully.
there's worse things to be accused of, that's for sure.
Like there's this this weird kind of flashbacky thing with his maman that's, I think I'm a little bit nervous about, because I don't know what's going on there, and I think they're trying to add some character development using that flashback sequence, but I don't think it's going to work. It just came off as really hacky and kind of poorly done, when they didn't need to do that, right? They could have just had him start off as a really stiff, you know, duty first, you know, relatively safe, but sometimes likes adventure Picard, and make him into this person that he's already become in the show.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Namir, and that was my thought as well, that just to get back to the hugging, I don't know why this is a bone to pick, but if
Okay to hug.
if he was stiff in all those interactions, right? Instead of, you know, hugging Guinan or whatever, but he was stiff, then you would feel that tension of him wanting to reach out and connect with people, which is you've always felt, but then holding back. But instead of showing that in his actions in throughout the scenes, they kind of lay it all out in exposition right in the first 5 minutes, where that Roman woman is like, I'm in love with you, aren't you in love with me? Oh no, you're putting up a thing, and she's like so psychoanalyzing him, and there's this whole, like, again, I think it's not as bad as the first season, but I think this show has the sin of like a lot of exposition of explaining character dynamics or interactions or internal you know, conflict or turmoil, whatever, and it's all done out in dialogue as opposed to being shown.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for me, the biggest evidence of that was when he was talking to Guinan. And you know, normally like a really good indicator of bad writing is when a character says I think a lot.
Mhm.
Like, I think you should do this, or I think you're having trouble. And I started counting. Guinan said it like 5 or 6 times. And I was like, oh boy, that's not good. Because then they're just saying their emotions, right? They're not doing things that reflect that, right, in a really interesting way. They're just, at that point, they're just talking heads, right?
Your answers are not in the stars, and they never have been.
You know, that the people involved in the show should be smart enough to avoid this type of problem. Like Patrick Stewart is definitely smart enough to know that you're supposed to show it, not tell it, you know, and all these, you know, very talented people behind the scenes and the writers, they should all know that as well, you know. And the fact that they're not doing it, I don't know why they're not doing it, but it's strange to me.
Welcome, my friend, to the very end of the road not taken.
Time has been broken.
We can save the future, and I will get us home together.
Sometimes the argument is like, well, you're just too nostalgic for the next generation, or you're too nostalgic for something else, and this is like a new thing, and you have to accept the new things. And I think up until Mandalorian, I was kind of doubting myself, but Mandalorian proves that you can do something new and then still have it grounded and rooted with this old thing, and have your cake and eat it too. Have both those things. You know, you can have everything that makes Star Wars interesting, exciting, dramatic, and have it consistent, you know, with the original trilogy without having it be like stuck in the past or be you know, stagnant, you know.
Yeah, the difference with Mandalorian is that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau really care about Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they really care about the canon and making sure that Star Wars is true to itself. I don't feel like anybody that's making any of these new shows, except for Lower Decks, cares about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, yeah, they're Star Trek, but I want to make my Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to make it, you know, Alex Kurtzman style.
Yeah, I feel like Picard kind of throws the baby out with the bathwater and then gets another baby in the tub and says, hey, it's the same baby. But I'm like, I'm not stupid. It's not the same baby. It's a cute baby, but it's not the same baby.
It's bald and it's French, and it doesn't. It likes to hug people, but it's still the same baby. You know, the other thing that bugged me was that Patrick Stewart, Picard's mom, was also English. I feel like she should have at least had a French accent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're trying to explain why he's so British. That he has a mixed,
I don't know.
mixed heritage.
I don't know, but he was wearing like 1920s, you know,
Yeah,
newsy clothes in the flashback for some reason.
It's still the year 2300 or whatever it is.
I know.
Like something like, I'm in the 1940s.
I know.
Where's
I was
my
waiting for
boot
the
black?
yeah to skip down the lane with like a leather strap bound bundle of books or something off to school. But,
Mommy,
yeah,
I'm off to clean and sweep chimneys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that was odd.
It was
And
odd.
I gotta say too is like, yeah, I agree with you guys. Is that the mom flashbacks threw me off, and I'm really hoping that they don't go the, like you say, the route that he's so distant and unable to commit and find love because his dad was an abusive asshole or something, you know.
I guess.
I hope that's not where
I wasn't really understanding what was going on there. I watched it twice and I was still like not.
Yeah, well, people were saying like it was like a trail of like domestic abuse. But I was like, I didn't see anybody. She's got dragged off by something. I was like,
I think the implication was she gets dragged off by his dad, by Picard's dad.
I didn't even see a dude in that. I don't. But
So-
maybe I missed something.
So it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if this is what it's going to end up being, but I've read somewhere that Patrick Stewart's father was a bit abusive. That he's talked about that. So I wonder if this is another Patrick Stewartism that's creeping into the character, which is similar to what they did with Sulu, where they made Sulu gay because
George Takei.
sorry, thank you. Because George Takei is gay. It's kind of like that line gets crossed of fiction, you know, reflecting reality. And I think that sometimes that can be good, and sometimes it's not good because it's just shoehorned in. You know? So, anyways, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I like the mom, and I like the scene with the mom, but I am also a little bit like you guys. I am worried that instead of just sticking with all the good stuff that Picard is as a character and is already amazing backstory, then instead of like delving into that or expanding that they're gonna like come up with a whole new thing. Like his father was possessed by an alien or even more, like I could totally see them go down the route of like the Borg Queen somehow is his mom, or the Borg
That
were.
would make no sense at all, I hope.
No, but the the ending of the episode, that character, the Borg or whatever,
Yeah.
says the line that his mom says. So there,
But she also says it in her voice. They have the same voice.
that's what I mean. So
The only thing I got from that was like, I hope that's not his mom, because that'd be ridiculous. But I just assume that maybe that's something that the Borg assimilated when they assimilated him and his memories.
that makes more sense. It's true. It makes more sense.
I hope that's what it is anyway.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Alan. It's probably going to be something like that, but it's going to look like his mom, right? Like the Borg Queen is going to look like his mom underneath all that stuff.
Superhero outfit, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be his mom, which I think is. I'm not sure how to feel about that. I feel like it's, I think it's telegraphed, right? Like the only reason that you would have a flashback like that with his mom as a character is to somehow bring her back again, and I think they're going to do that, right? Like, and that's, I guess that's the other thing I think is kind of like not well thought of in the show is, everything that's important, that's an interesting idea, they set up immediately before the payoff, right? So one of the things that I noticed that they did was they talked about how all of the new ships had Borg technology in it, while he was walking on the Stargazer, and then 5 minutes later, they're like, oh, how is the Borg Queen able to access we shouldn't have put all that Borg technology in our ship. Why did we do that? But if they had set that up a little bit, if they had talked about that a little bit more at the beginning of the episode, or the payoff would have been a lot better. And then you could have had a story about the Federation going into science gone wrong, or territory that they shouldn't have belonged, that Jurassic Park type thing, right? But they didn't do it. They just they put it there because they realized they couldn't mention it while it was happening. Like they had to have it there ahead of time, so it seemed like it was set up, but really it wasn't. So and to me, that's kind of like the way the whole show is written, right? It's just like afterthought after afterthought, just to get to that end.
She's getting complete access, weapons, navigation, everything.
Computer, activate auto-destruct sequence.
Auto-destruct activated.
I didn't understand why they went right to self-destruct, because they already acknowledged that the Borg Queen was just stunning crew members. So obviously there was like a non-lethal intent there. And they didn't really give a chance to figure out what was going on before. It's like, okay, we're done. No, you're being too we're creeped out by what you're doing here, and we're just going to blow ourselves up. Let's see the little.
Yeah. It's because they don't like to learn things anymore. They just like to blow things up.
I was like, she's acting very odd, and like they're here. They're asking for help. She's stunning people who are attacking her. Like maybe you should find out more about why that is before it just self-destruct. Nope, we're done.
Blow up the ship.
And I mean, I know it's going to probably come full circle where he's got to make a different decision and not blow up the ship, but it just seemed like
I guess, I don't know.
That's that's probably where it's going to go. But
it reminds me a lot of Tapestry already. That ending when he says, "We're at the end of the road, not taken." That's thematically that's what Tapestry is about. It's and he's talking about second chances. Where Q is saying that Picard has been reminiscing and talking about second chances a lot, and that's what Tapestry is about.
So, if you had to do it all over again, things would be different.
On one hand, Tapestry is one of the best episodes of Next Generation. On the other hand, it's been done, so I don't know what this is going to add if they start going down that road, basically.
It's not going to add anything because they didn't start with Picard as a character. I think it's just going to be him kind of like going through the greatest hits of the next generation, right? Like an idea from Tapestry, you're gonna have Q in there, Guinan's in there. Oh, look, it's the Borg over there, and it's just gonna be a lot of that. And I personally am just gonna be really frustrated by it. I'm gonna keep watching it because
you have
thrive
to.
on because I have to. Yeah, I have to. But
Thrive on misery.
I thrive on misery and anger, but I'm not gonna like it.
I don't remember if it's Lars or if it's somebody else that asked Picard, like, what happens if you stop? I think it's her. That's
I think it was Guinan.
Oh yeah. Oh, exactly. He said, "Oh, what happens if you would stop?" Like it's the same. It's done. Like it's so been done before,
Yeah. Also, I don't know what she's talking about. Like he's on a vineyard. He's not doing anything, right? There's no indication that he's missing anything in his life. He seems pretty happy.
Mhm.
It just kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like it's that same. They're not showing the actual missing part of him. He's not doing anything where he's like, oh, this sucks, I'm missing something. He just goes up to Guinan and he's like, hey Guinan, something's wrong, and she's like, oh, you're missing something. He's like, I am. I better go to space.
Well, they had a distress call that was requesting his presence. Oh,
I did like that scene a lot. I like the scene where the Admiral shows up, and it's like we've all seen those scenes before. It's like we need the best captain in the fleet, kind of scene. There's a lot of scenes like that with Kirk.
There must be other ships in the quadrant.
Other ships, yes, but no experienced commanders. Captain, I need Jim Kirk.
Oh, please.
And I thought it worked really well, and it made sense and it was justified. I mean, I like that part of the episode, the fact that this this spatial anomaly shows up and there's a communication calling Picard, and it just makes it very compelling and impossible for him to turn it down.
If they had just put that scene with the Admiral ahead of his meeting with Guinan, that would have motivated the meeting with Guinan, right? Because he would have been like, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't think I can handle this, and he would have had a reason to seek some sort of opinion or some sort of help from his guru, right? Guinan the guru. But they didn't do it that way. They totally did it the opposite way for no reason. I couldn't understand it, and now I get it. I feel like they had written it that way. I feel like they had written it so that the Admiral had gone to him and he was like, I don't know if I should do this, and then he goes to see Guinan, and then Guinan convinces him that he needs this, and then he goes. Like, you know what it feels like? Oh my God, this is what it feels like. It's like my 8-year-old coming home and telling me something that happened to her at school. Like, I went to school and then I had a fight with my best friend, but then we made up, and then I went over to the playground, and then this thing happened, and then I, like it's just like an event after event after event, not really connected in any way, and not really making sense together as a whole, and not really a story, like not really an interesting story. Like my 8-year-old is not telling me interesting stories. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh yeah,
I know what you mean.
Really? Tell me more. Right? Like that's kind of what it felt like to me. Like it doesn't feel like it's actual drama. It just feels like it's like, let's get these characters from here to here to here to here, and then the credits.
I thought they did a better job in this show, in this season, of kind of showing the Federation and kind of leaning a bit more into the history and canon. Like, is it Soji? I don't remember. I know there were two twins, and I don't know which one's which, but
Soji's the one that's still alive.
Okay, so
Dodge or something was the other one that got blown up.
Right. Okay, so Soji is.
There were twins. What twins?
In the first season, there were
Android twins in the first season.
You watched the first season?
Data's daughter.
Right. And she's only in it for like 2 seconds because they realize they don't need her as a character anymore.
Exactly.
He was a plot device.
Yeah. Right.
The card on the vineyard, it's very iconic. And then we go to Soji, and then I realized she's on the Deltan home world.
That was cool.
That was cool. And it took me a second to be like, are those Deltans? And And because to go back, like that's what I'm talking about. Like Star Trek has such a rich history. You don't need to make up new races. You don't need to make up new secret agencies and things. You just need to go. You can have new things, but you can rely and fall back on this great world and having the a scene when they're out with the Deltons and another leftover Gene Roddenberry sex planet as well. And you see that a little bit in this episode. You know, I thought it was great. I liked that the Stargazer is back. I like that. I'm like with Namir, where I don't understand how Rios is like a captain again. Like, was he a captain before? And
yeah, he was a first officer in Starfleet. But he's kind of like Chakotay. He's first officer in Starfleet before he decided that. Well, I think he met those androids, those Soji style androids, and something happened. I can't remember now, but he left Starfleet anyway. He gave up his commission to become a cargo guy or something.
Right. So, but he just comes back and then promotes to captain. That's it. It's a little jarring, I think.
Chakotay comes back to be a captain.
Anyways, I'm happy for him to be captain. I like that he's captain of the Stargazer. It's weird that he smokes a cigar. Nobody.
I love that. I mean, yeah, it made no sense, but it was very cool. It was very cool. The cigar chomping swagger, like I love that. I ate that all up. It was cool.
Lung cancer is not cool, Alan.
I know it's not cool, but it still looked cool. Smoking looks cool. I don't care. It's just like watching Mad Men. Smoking looks cool. Doesn't matter what the health effects are. We all know it looks cool.
And yeah, it's kind of like he's like Han Solo. I mean, I really like that actor, and I like his the other versions of him. There's the hologram. There's that Spanish hologram that's with Seven. That it's really cool, and it's like really the first time there's like a full on Latin American character in Star Trek. And he's just like he's a little bit like a bandito or something. He's like, arriba, arriba, you know.
Like Speedy Gonzalez.
What?
Like Speedy Gonzalez?
He's Speedy Gonzalez, basically. And there's a whole Lando like Han Solo thing between him and Seven where he's like, hey, I told you to take care of my ship. She's like, it's my ship. You know, that whole ship thing is getting old. We've done it.
I know, but it's also like more evidence that this is just Star Wars in a Star Trek universe.
What do you think about that, Alan? Because I was having a similar thought.
Okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Well, that's what you complain about it, you know, that they don't give him enough development or whatever, and they just kind of jump right into it. There's no story, but that's what they did with the first season, and then everybody hated it. Like that it took Picard so long to get to space, and he's like just wandering around talking and then talking some more, meeting with this person, like, oh, I'm gonna call him a favor and talk some more, and talk to an admiral, doesn't like him and swear a bit, and then, you know, there's a lot of talking.
I don't remember you being such a chatterbox back in the day.
I feel like there's a happy medium. Like I feel like there's this middle ground where you can have action but also have some character development. You know, like I think other shows have done it. Why does it have to be like one or the other? It's just personally, I would take the slow first season over the first episode of the second season.
You're saying that right now you prefer the first season of Picard than to this first episode of the second season?
Well, I don't really remember a lot of the first season, so it's all kind of a boring blur.
Also professed to love a lot of the first season Next Generation too. So
that's true, but you know what? It turns out I was right. I did like a lot of the first season of Next Generation. But I don't know. The only answer would be to rewatch the first season of Picard, and I'm not doing that.
I'm going to totally rewatch it now, because just to get back up to speed. But okay, so just to get back to your point, the issue with all the talking and exposition in Picard season 1 isn't that it was talking. The problem was that it was redundant and repetitious. So in episode 2, he would meet a character and tell the character what happened in episode 1. And in episode 3, he'd meet a character and tell him what happened in episode 1 and episode 2. And then in episode 4, he would talk to another character, because he was kept meeting new people. And then he'd be like, well, this happened and that happened. Now he's going back and explaining what happened in episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you get to episode 5, and then something starts happening. Only in episode 5 did we get to the Borg cube, and there's some action and there's things happening. But all that other stuff is just redundant setting up. And that's the problem. The problem isn't talking, because Next Generation is a very talky show, but it's never redundant.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I don't actually think that the pace of the show was the problem. Like I was fine with it being slow. It was just it wasn't going anywhere for a while. But I also don't remember really minding that so much, right? Like I like, I like a slow burn, right? As long as there's some payoff. I just didn't like the payoff. And I didn't like how the later it got in the season, the more fan service there was, like 7 of 9, and then Jonathan Frakes, and then, Data throughout. And there was still no real solid story. Like there was still no real solid reason for the show to exist. But I didn't mind the pacing. I thought I was fine with it. I prefer that pacing over this episode.
We know what you like, Namir. We were there in all those conversations about season 1 TNG. This episode was amazing. This episode's amazing.
I really like bad acting.
I did like that acting. I don't think there's ever been like a TNG episode that I've loved that you guys have hated. So,
Okay, why is Guinan old? That's what I want to know.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's old. Whoopi Goldberg's actually old. So, I mean, what are you gonna do?
I thought it was a cool alien trait to have the ability to age at will. It seemed like if you're an immortal and you're done with life and you've done everything you think you've set out to accomplish, and you're happy and you don't want to live anymore, you can just age yourself and then you'll be dead. You don't have to have that curse of immortality. I don't know. I thought it was a cool. Like it'd be cooler if it had already been established at some point, but rather than just be service Whoopi Goldberg's advanced age.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good writing if it was already established at some point.
I think it would have been better to just not talk about it. And I mean, a perfect example is, and Star Trek keeps doing this. They write themselves into a corner by making characters, live a lot longer than humans. So with the Vulcans that are a lot, and Spock is supposed to be like, Sarek is supposed to be 200 years old, and then Leonard Nimoy ages like significantly, between Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6, and they never explain it. Like, why do you look older than Shatner? Like, aren't you supposed to be a long living species? And you don't talk about it, because I think it just makes it worse.
Yeah, you just roll with it, because deep down inside you know that this isn't real life. Right. Like it's a show, right? It's okay. Or like, how come we've never seen anybody go to the bathroom? We know they go to the bathroom. We just don't need to see it. It's there. It's fine. We can just like ignore that part. You just
yeah, it's funny too, because I mean, if you watch Encounter Farpoint versus Voyager season 7, where Hugh's son is in it. I mean, John Delancey is obviously aged like 15 years. Like there's an obvious, like his hairline's receding. He's getting more lines in his face, so you can tell that the actor is aging, but they never address it. And I mean, it didn't really matter to me if they explained it or not.
But they do it again in this episode. Is that they have to like. Although I did like it, because this way at least you got to see for 2 seconds the deep faked John Delancey younger version, and then he snaps, and they're like, the accountant looked at the budget. He's like, "Holy shit! How long is he going to be de-aged for? Only 5 seconds? Okay, good."
No, not long enough to scrutinize and tear it apart on the internet like they did Luke Skywalker.
My favorite moment in the episode is when they wake up the Borg and they all go, Picard. Like, so it's super creepy. They did a really good job with that.
I was like, why does the Borg Queen have a cape? I don't get that. That's my
Well,
that was
okay,
actually that was actually my biggest gripe with the whole thing. I'm like, what does the Borg need with a cape? Like,
But
do
that's
they-
the thing
is it
that I like
Krypton?
because
Like
I like that because it's like this is something new, right? Like it's not the Borg Queen like we saw before. This is some new thing with like weird tentacles and it talks like Picard's mom, and then
But
it's
then
got
they're
these
practical.
gears for faces.
they only assimilate things that they find practical and useful. I don't know what's useful about having a cape, but were they going to do a magician act or something? I don't know what was going on with that cape, but anyway.
I'm going to make this terrible show disappear.
Well, and the other thing was to see the fleet of Starfleet ships was really cool, and I like that they didn't do the cut and paste job they did in the first season, where they had this, I don't know what ship it was, but it was like just the same ship, like copy and pasted 50 times. That was their big fleet. And here there was all these ships. There was like Sovereign class, there was Excelsior class, there was like,
that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was neat. I mean, I still would have liked a little bit of build up, like a little bit of tension, but you know, whatever. It's not that kind of show, I guess.
One of the problems with this show has nothing to do with this show. Has to do with the fact that Discovery is now in the 32nd century. So I think to have a show that's so far into the future and establishing all sorts of stuff about the Federation, it kind of makes a lot of the stuff in this show irrelevant, because you know that certain things are going to happen or they're not going to happen. It kind of makes this show a little bit like a prequel to like Discovery season 4. Like we know that
you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Discovery is a terrible show. You're absolutely right.
That's not what I said.
I feel like that's what you meant to say. That's what I heard.
So let's get everybody's rating out of 10. Alan, you go first.
Okay. So I was super pleased, despite Namir tearing apart all my hopes and dreams and finding cracks in everything. I still give it an 8 out of 10. It's not the classic Trek I love and adore, but it's the closest we've got so far with the new stuff to me feeling that magic. So 8 out of 10.
Namir. 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a. I don't want to be too harsh, because I know Alan really likes it, so I don't want to hurt his feelings.
Okay, you can't crush my spirit. You can try. I will persevere.
Also, Namir, you have to leave room for like worse episodes.
2 out of 2. I'm gonna give it 2 mamons out of 10.
I'm gonna give it like a solid 7 out of 10.
What are you talking? You just spent the whole review ripping it.
No, but
you didn't say anything that you liked about it.
I did. I like Q. I like Guinan. I like the pacing. I like the general plot of it. I don't know where it's going, but I like that the Borg are coming back and there's an anomaly and there's a thing in the thing. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I like where it's going. My favorite part of the show is the fact that it's predicting that in 2 years from now, I'm going to go outside and run into Jean-luc Picard running down the street, shooting Borgs.
Because he's suffering from dementia and he thinks everybody's a Borg now.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next week. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you want.